Okay, picture this. You unbox a brand new Samsung Galaxy phone, all excited, right? You boot it up, and instead of seeing Chrome waiting there, you see something else.
Whoa, that's pretty wild to think about.
I know, right? It might sound crazy, but that's one possible outcome of what we're diving into today.
Yeah, the US government is going after Google again, and they're saying Google has too much power over, like, everything online.
Basically, they're saying Google has this monopoly on the internet, and this time it's all about the Chrome browser and what it means for all of us, the users.
It's a huge deal, and the DOJ, the Department of Justice, is pulling out all the stops. They're even comparing it to the whole Microsoft and Internet Explorer drama from back in the day.
Right, and it has a lot of people in the tech world on the edge of their seats. I mean, we're talking a real-life tech thriller unfolding right in front of us.
Oh yeah, and we've got a whole stack of sources for this deep dive. News articles, legal analysis, you name it.
And we even dove into some of the, shall we say, lively discussions happening over on Reddit in the Android community.
Oh, those Reddit threads are always a wild ride, but they can actually offer some pretty interesting insights, even if they get a little heated sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what we're aiming for in this deep dive, to really untangle this whole legal battle, but more importantly, figure out what it all means for you, the everyday person using the internet.
Exactly, because let's be honest, most of us rely on Google for pretty much everything online these days.
Right, from like quick searches to finding our way with maps to watching those cat videos on YouTube. It's Google all the way down.
Pretty much. So any major changes the government forces on Google could have huge ripple effects way beyond just switching your default search engine.
Definitely. So let's break it all down. What's the DOJ's case here? What are they actually saying Google is doing wrong?
Okay, so they're saying Google's got an unfair advantage in the online search market through what they call anti-competitive practices.
Anti-competitive practices.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty serious.
It is. And to understand that, we need to look at some specific examples, like the fact that Google pays billions of dollars, like literally billions, to companies like browser makers and phone manufacturers just to make sure their default search engine is Google.
Wait, so they're paying to be the default?
Yep. And it's a lot of money. We're talking $26.3 billion in 2021 alone. That's billion with a B.
Wow, that's a crazy amount of money. I mean, I knew Google was big, but...
Right, so the DOJ is saying Google is basically using their massive financial muscle to squeeze out competitors and make sure they stay on top.
So it's not just about having a great product, it's about making it almost impossible for anyone to even think about using something else.
Exactly, and that's where Chrome comes in.
Okay, so how does the Chrome browser fit into all of this?
Well, the DOJ sees Chrome as kind of like Google's secret weapon, or maybe not so secret anymore. They control the most popular web browser, which means they control how millions of people get onto the internet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that gives them this incredible power to funnel all that search traffic directly to, well, you guessed it, Google search.
So it's like this built-in advantage right from the moment you open your browser.
Pretty much. And that, they argue, is what keeps Google's monopoly going strong and stops any real competition from emerging.
So what's the DOJ's solution? What do they want Google to do about it?
Well, their main goal is to force Google to sell off Chrome completely, like make it its own separate company, totally independent from Google.
Whoa, so no more Google Chrome.
Well, it would still be called Chrome, probably, but it would be run completely differently. They're thinking of something like Mozilla Firefox, where it's developed by a company focused solely on making the best browser possible without any ulterior motives.
Okay, that's interesting. So imagine a world where Chrome and Google Search are no longer like joined at the hip. Would that mean a more level playing field for other search engines?
Yeah, that's what the DOJ is hoping for. They're thinking maybe new search engines could pop up or existing ones could finally get a fair shot.
It's a pretty radical idea, to be honest. And like we said, the implications go way beyond just picking a different search engine.
Yeah, and one of the biggest potential shakeups could be for people with Samsung phones. The DOJ even called out Samsung specifically in their proposal, which has got a lot of people wondering what will happen to all those Galaxy devices out there.
Right, because right now, Chrome is like the pre-installed default browser on most of those phones.
Exactly. So if Google has to split from Chrome, there's a good chance Samsung would just switch to their own browser, Samsung Internet, and make that the default instead.
I've heard some people say that Samsung Internet is actually faster and more customizable than Chrome, which is interesting. But does everything work on it the same way?
Right, compatibility is a big question. Would websites and web apps run as smoothly on Samsung Internet as they do on Chrome? That's something we'd have to wait and see.
It's one of many questions that come up when you start thinking about all the ripple effects this case could have. What about other browsers like Microsoft Edge?
Yeah, would Edge suddenly become the go-to alternative for, like, millions of people? Or would this whole thing actually spark a wave of innovation in the browser market?
Could we see smaller companies step up with browsers focused on like privacy or speed or stuff we haven't even thought of yet?
Yeah, that's the exciting part. This whole thing could be like a browser renaissance.
It's pretty wild to think that one legal case could reshape the whole browser landscape.
Oh, absolutely. And then there are the web developers, the people who build all the websites and stuff we use.
Yeah, like right now, everyone's basically optimizing for Chrome because it's so dominant.
Exactly. So if Chrome gets split off, would they have to start considering all these other browsers? Would that actually be a good thing for the web overall?
It's like we're standing on the edge of a whole new internet, and it's all thanks to this one case, and that's just the browsers.
Oh, yeah, we haven't even touched on the potential impact on things like travel, artificial intelligence, the whole nine yards.
It really is a fascinating domino effect to consider, which is exactly what we'll do next time in part 2 of this deep dive.
Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, and it's a huge can of worms we're opening here. And speaking of huge, we can't forget about the travel industry. I mean, think about airlines, hotels, all those travel sites. They depend so much on Google, right?
Oh, totally. They basically live and die by Google's ad network and how high they rank in search results. If people can't find them on Google, they might as well not exist.
Exactly. So imagine if this Chrome split happens and suddenly they can't rely on Google as the main way to reach customers.
Yeah, it would be like a whole new ballgame for them. They'd have to completely rethink their whole marketing strategy.
Right, they might have to like explore different ad platforms or even go back to more like old school marketing. Who knows?
It's crazy to think about. And you know what? This could actually be a good thing for travelers.
Oh yeah, how so?
Well, more competition usually means better prices, right?
Right.
If travel companies aren't all just funneling money into Google, maybe they'll have to compete more on price to attract customers.
I hadn't thought about that. So cheaper flights, cheaper hotels, that would be a nice silver lining to all this.
Definitely. But the travel industry is just one piece of the puzzle. This case goes way deeper into the world of artificial intelligence, AI.
Oh yeah, that's right. Initially, the DOJ was talking about forcing Google to sell off all their AI stuff too.
Yeah, they were really going for the jugular. Like, Google has a huge stake in a company called Anthropic, which is a major player in AI. The DOJ wanted them to divest from that and all their other AI investments.
Right, I remember reading about that. But then they kind of backpedaled, didn't they?
They did. Now they're just saying Google has to notify them about future AI investments, which is a much softer approach.
Yeah, it's interesting. What do you think caused that change of heart?
Well, it seems like they're trying to find a balance, right? They want to promote competition and prevent Google from dominating AI, but they also don't want to slow down innovation in such an important field.
Makes sense. So it's not about stopping AI development altogether, but more about making sure no one company like Google has all the power.
Exactly. And it's the same thinking with Android, Google's mobile operating system. The DOJ even considered making them sell off Android.
Whoa, really? That would have been insane.
I know, right? But in the end, they decided against it, for now at least.
So Google dodged a bullet there. Does that mean they're off the hook when it comes to Android?
Not quite. They still have to play by some new rules. The DOJ is basically putting them under a microscope, making sure they're not using Android to stifle competition.
So they're watching Google's every move. What does that look like in practice?
Well, for example, they're going to make sure Google doesn't make it harder to use other search engines on Android or force people to use Chrome. It's about giving users more choice.
So imagine an Android world where you could easily choose your default browser, your search engine, even your app store.
Exactly. It could be a totally different experience. More freedom, more innovation, maybe even better apps.
It's exciting to think about, but let's be real, Google is a behemoth. They're not just going to roll over and do whatever the DOJ says.
Oh, for sure. They're already pushing back hard. They're saying these changes would hurt users and innovation and that they're only trying to help people.
It's like a classic standoff. The government wants more competition. Google says they know what's best for users.
And it's not just happening in the US either. This whole thing has global implications. The European Union has already been going after Google for years.
Yeah, they've slapped Google with some massive fines for anti-competitive practices.
Right. And this US case could embolden them to take even more aggressive action.
It's like a domino effect.
Right.
Could this be the start of a worldwide movement to rein in big tech?
It's definitely a possibility. We're at a crossroads, and the decisions made in this case could reshape the entire digital landscape.
And it's far from over. Google is a legal powerhouse. They're going to fight tooth and nail. This could drag on for years.
Absolutely. So what does all this mean for the average internet user? That's the big question.
Right, the person listening to this deep dive right now. What should they be thinking about?
Well, for one, it means the internet as we know it could be about to change big time. The way we browse, the way we search, even the way we interact with our phones, it could all look very different in a few years.
It's a good reminder that things are always changing in the tech world, and we need to pay attention. But it's not just about being passive observers, right?
Definitely not. We have a voice in this. We can demand better from these tech giants. We can support companies that align with our values, and we can hold our governments accountable.
It's about being active participants, shaping the future of the internet, not just letting it happen to us.
Absolutely. This case highlights how important it is to be aware, to be engaged, and to make our voices heard.
It's about taking ownership of our online experience and recognizing that the future of the internet is not set in stone. It's something we can help shape.
Yeah, it's a real wake-up call. And as this whole thing plays out, I think it's so important for everyone to really dig into the arguments on both sides.
Oh, absolutely. Don't just take the headlines at face value, you know?
Right, actually think critically about it, ask questions, challenge the assumptions, all that good stuff.
It's so easy to get caught up in the hype and the rhetoric, but a little healthy skepticism never hurts.
Totally. This is way too important to just leave it to the lawyers and politicians.
Yeah, exactly. It's our internet too, right?
Right. We, the users, need to be informed, engaged in this conversation. We can demand better from these companies, support alternatives that actually align with our values,
Absolutely. And hold our governments accountable too, right? Make sure
Yeah.
they're creating a level playing field for everyone. Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final thought to chew on. If Google is forced to let go of Chrome, what would be your top priorities in a browser?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Would it be speed, privacy, compatibility, or something totally different?
It's a question worth thinking about because, honestly, the answer could shape the future of the whole internet experience.
The browser is how we access everything online. It's our window to the digital world. So the choices made and how it's developed, those have a huge impact on all of us.
And that's what the deep dive is all about, right? Getting you thinking, questioning, and forming your own opinions.
So keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, keep diving deeper.
Stay curious, my friend.
That's it for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through the world of antitrust and what it all means for the future of the web.
Until next time, keep those browsers open.